The Department of Justice will help authorities in Mississippi to improve their death notification process. The capital of Mississippi, Jackson, is going to receive technical assistance from the DOJ to make decisions about burials in ways that comply with the civil rights laws that are on the books. Now, the reason for this is because of an awful series of systemic failures and individual failures and collective failures that have taken place in Mississippi. And these failures have resulted in people being buried in paupers' graves without their families knowing. Now, all of this came to light when a gentleman named Dexter Wade was killed. Now, Dexter Wade, if you don't know, was a black man in Mississippi. He was killed by the police, and he he was buried in a pauper's grave without his mother knowing. His mother had no idea that her son had been killed. The mother had no idea that her baby was laying in a grave site somewhere with absolutely no one there to treat the body properly, with absolutely nobody there to show him any dignity or love. It was just a grave. And the story might seem like a not big deal, but here's why it's a big deal. When they exhumed his body from this pauper's grave, they found a wallet, they found a state ID card, and on the state ID card, they had his address, not an old address, his current address that he lived at with his mom. Now, this person who found it, the pathologist Frank Peretti, reported that he found the wallet in the front pocket of his jeans. It wasn't in some hidden place. It was in the front pocket of his jeans. ID card, credit card, health insurance card, all this stuff was in his pocket. His address didn't change. His mama's address didn't change. But no one contacted his mama. No one looked for him. So mama's looking for her baby. Who wouldn't be? What mother wouldn't be looking for her son? I ain't met one yet. Black, white, red, yellow, doesn't matter. I ain't met a mama yet that ain't gonna be looking for her baby. Well, Dexter Wade was missing, and her mama was worried. His mama was worried, excuse me. So she called the police and reported him missing. This was 9 days after the police killed him. He was killed by a police cruiser. He was crossing the street. The police car hits him, kills him. 9 days later, he home. He's not home. Mama don't know what to do. She called the police. Police didn't give any information about him. This was March 14th. Just to give you some context, March 14th, she calls and reports her son missing. It's not until August 27th, April, May, June, July, August, 5.5 months later, she finds out that her son had been killed. He left the house that day, and before an hour had passed, he'd been killed by the police car. And they didn't call his mama. They didn't call his job. They didn't report to the address. They stuck him in what they call a pauper's field. It's a place you bury people who don't have no family, no money, no name. And it's owned by Hinds County. Now, when they asked Hinds County why they buried him in a pauper's grave, why they treated his body with no dignity, they said he didn't have any ID on him. They said the only reason we found him eventually was because there was a bottle of prescription pills, and they used the information from the pills to find out who he was in a couple of days. They basically made it sound like they did some hardcore investigation to track this person down. He said he called a phone number for the mama, couldn't find him. The mayor said last month that he was found without identification, and the police were not able to identify him. Now, let me be very clear. I know the mayor, Chokwe Lumumba's father as well. I don't believe the mayor's lying. I believe the mayor got bad information. But what we know for sure is, based on the evidence, the authorities knew who he was. They knew what was in his wallet. They had his address. They had his name. They had everything. And this information devastated Dexter Wade's mother. Her name is Betterston Wade. She said it was another jab in the stomach. She said if they had a wallet and knew where his address was, why didn't they just visit his address when he was laying out on the freeway and come get me so I could have seen my son? I could have gotten a last glimpse of my son. I could have been there since they had all the information. What took them so long after they had all of that information? This is what mom was asking. And it's not just her asking. Multiple families, multiple mothers, multiple people have made the same concern, have articulated the same concern. I'm going to show you this. Look at this. This is a picture of 3 mothers. You notice one of them is white. And it's unfortunate that we live in a world where you got to have somebody white in order for it to matter. But it's the truth. It's the truth. Unfortunately, our misery index, our ability to feel pain or sadness or sorrow is different when it's white people on the line. And so in this case, what you see here on the left is the mother, Gretchen Hankins. I hate this story just as much as I hate the other story. She arrived at a burial spot at the pauper's field to find out her son was there too. 17 months after her son's body was declared dead, she found him unclaimed, buried in a pauper's field, once again outside of Hinds County jail work farm. Again, it's a jail, it's a work farm, and they have a field where they throw all the dead bodies. The grave, you know who dug his grave? Inmates. They don't give you no name. They don't give you no headstone. They just give you a number. His number was 645. 645. This is the indignity that these people are being buried with. I don't care if you committed a crime. I don't care if you were a drug addict. I don't care if you were a prostitute. I don't care if you were an investment banker, which might be the worst of all of those things. Whatever you are, you deserve dignity. This person didn't commit a crime. This person didn't commit a bad act. This person simply was killed. And you see here, 645. This is all that was left of her son. This was all that was left of the memory. It's indefensible. It's inexplicable that look at this. She finally got a chance. She finally got an opportunity to say goodbye to her son and have a proper funeral. You can see the proper funeral here. But for more than a year and a half after her son disappeared from their home, she just searched and she just prayed and filed police reports and asked friends. She did all the things that you do when you love your child and your child is missing. My heart breaks. If one of my children went missing, I don't know what I would do. And to find out that my child was dead and the police knew where he or she was and they didn't do nothing about it, oh no, that's a problem. Oh, that's a problem. But they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. And as a result, you got a string of mothers like the ones you see right here. You got a string of mothers whose babies were buried without them. Now, some of you might say, well, they're dead, who cares? You're missing the point. This coroner's office, Hinds County, has buried approximately 330 people since 2008. And now we don't know how many people. We don't know how many people were buried without notice, without support, without care, without love, without dignity. We have no idea what happened. And people say, yeah, but that doesn't mean there's foul play. It may not. They could just be so wildly incompetent and so wildly and wantonly indifferent to the well-being and of these poor people. Most of them black, but some of them white. That's all possible. But even if it's true, it's still horrific and indefensible. Everybody deserves a proper burial. Everybody deserves to live and die with dignity. And these people have been denied it. And we know with almost complete certainty that this would never happen. And it certainly wouldn't happen systematically to rich people. It wouldn't happen to middle class people. It wouldn't happen to a town filled with white people. But when they're black and they're brown and they're disposable, oh, then it's okay. And that's what we're seeing right now. And that is what is so incredibly heartbreaking about this story. But I'm gonna move on. But Mississippi has to do something about this. Jackson has to do something about this. Because this is, again, indefensible.